France 24 debate. We're looking at how to integrate the Roma people in an integrated Europe. With us to talk about it from the French city of Lyon, Saimir, who is president of the Voix of the Roma. Welcome back. Welcome back as well to Jacques, who is a Conservative Member of Parliament and the mayor of the Paris suburb of Maisons-Laffitte. Paul MORIN of the European Grassroots anti-racist movement, and also France 24 Europe editor Christophe ROBEET. Christophe, Holland on Facebook says, we must raise the question of whether the law is in tune with the practical realities of the times. Do these Roma have some place to go home to?
Well, there are an estimated 10 million Roma people in Europe. It's the largest ethnic community on the continent. To give you an idea, that's approximately the population of Portugal. It's true that a lot of them are geographically based in Romania, in Bulgaria. You find a lot of Roma people in the Balkans, Serbia, Kosovo, Macedonia. Do they have a home? Well, that's the problem. I guess yes. I recently traveled to Macedonia, an interesting country, because in Skopje you have a whole district which is entirely Roma, run by a Roma mayor. But this is one of the very few success stories across Europe, because even if they have a home, you should go and have a look at what the home looks like. And you would easily understand why a lot of Roma people decide to come all the way to France, with some incentives, of course, because the current system allows them to receive 300 euros if they agree to go back. So you have this endless shuttle between Bucharest and Paris, but that's not a solution, because it means that a lot of these children are not educated, and they enter this vicious circle, which leads to the problems we're discussing tonight.
All right, there are different recipes for how to better integrate the Roma. We're going to talk about those in a moment with our guests. First, though, let's say hello to James Creedon. How are you, sir?
Good evening, François.
James, who hosts our Media Buzz segment. And James, we were mentioning in part one of our discussion the heated remarks of the Conservative mayor of Nice, who labelled, well, I guess he made a confusion between Roma people and travelers, but in any case, he labelled them delinquents, and that caused an uproar.
And you can see that there is a confusion between the French indigenous travelling people and the Roma, especially during the summertime, François, because this is when the French indigenous travellers tend to move around a lot, which draws attention to, I suppose, nomadic peoples, and then the Roma get the same degree of attention. So here you have the front page of today's Le Figaro. Roma and travelling people, nightmare.
Mayors have had enough.
Mayors have had enough. Now, in the editorial of Le Figaro today, again, there is no distinction between the Roma and the French travelling people. It's sort of lumped in together as if it's the same problem. And just one quote from the editorial: "We must resolve this problem at a European level. We need solutions so that people don't have to take the law into their own hands." And the editorialist gives the example of a call for help on Facebook in a district near outside of Paris, near Disneyland, where I think 50 people were grouped together via a Facebook appeal to evict Roma. So that's what they're trying to avoid.
Hold on, let me just bring in Saimir on this. Saimir, in the summertime, do you feel a spike in this anti-Roma sentiment?
Yes, it is true. It is true. But allow me, please, just correct a few information which is not correct. Actually, the 300 euros existed before as a help for those who wanted to go back in their countries, but this has been cancelled for a few months now, for more than 6 months at least, and there is no such help. Then about your question about homes. Do Roma have homes? Yes, and they have their homes, and they have also their homelands, and France is the homeland for at least 500,000 of Roma, and I'm speaking about Roma who are French citizens, and France is their homeland, and among them, some of them participated in the war against Nazism during the Second World War. Just to take one of the examples, Armand Stenegri was a resistant, and his nickname as a resistant was Colonel Archange, and he has his own group composed by many Romani people.
All right, so the Roma's lots of misconceptions. That number, 500,000 in France, there, according to
Right.
Saimir.
Well, I suppose in terms of the media, what I was getting to there is on the front page of Le Figaro, you have this amalgamation between two different groups. You don't see that in some other papers, which are taking the care to distinguish these different populations and these different issues, social issues. This is L'Est Républicain, one of the biggest selling papers in France, from the east of the country.
From the Lorraine region, a fine
That's
paper.
right. Gens du voyage, travelling people, and Roma, two populations, two polémiques. So that's just one issue that I think crops up in the press, François, this sort of amalgamation between the two people. Also, I think it becomes a big political football. Moving across the media now to television, let's take a look at an extract from the Arte programme Des Antox.
The Franco-German channel.
Franco-German channel, and it's a programme that does fact-checking on political discourse. Let's take a listen to one quote that they have from Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader.
Des directives européennes qui ont été acceptées par le gouvernement socialiste imposent, avant de démanteler un camp de Rome, de leur proposer un logement social. Vous savez, ces logements sociaux que les Français, eux, attendent, 1 million d'entre eux attendent depuis 5 ans, 7 ans, 10 ans. Eh bien, eux, ils ont un accès privilégié au logement social.
Right, that is incorrect, as that show very correctly pointed out. There is absolutely no obligation to provide Roma with social housing, certainly not ahead of French citizens. Perhaps hotel accommodation for a few days, but that's completely untrue. So you can see there how this becomes just this political point-scoring mechanism, right? Now, if you move to social media, you can see also the way in which, this stigmatization becomes visible.
I hope this is facetious here.
Well, even if it isn't, I think the fact that it's present on social media shows that there is stigmatization. This is first aid in the case of a Roma bite, so essentially likening Roma to insects, right? Now, if you move along, Manuel Valls, a lot of focus on him. He's the Interior Minister. It is, above all, his, I suppose, responsibility in a way to kind of manage this debate and to set policy. You can see cartoons that appear on social media as well. Socialist repression, it says on the top there, and I'm not sure how visible that is, but it says, said with roses, right? Roses being the symbol of the Socialist Party, and he's essentially telling her to get out. So I think continuity perhaps in policy with the UMP, I suppose, government or administration that preceded Valls and the socialist government. That's what that cartoon is trying to point to, but a slightly different discourse.
All right, so a lot of activists disappointed in the way the socialists have handled the situation, feeling it's too much of continuity with their predecessors as far as they're concerned.
Exactly.
There was one other issue in the French southern city of Marseille. It seems as though the locals have been caught out with the new surveillance cameras they've put up in town.
That's right. The media have got their hands on the accompanying. There's a label, François, with each accompanying video camera. Now, there's video surveillance all over Marseille. It appears that 5 of these surveillance cameras seem to have had the specific aim of tracking Roma populations. You can see it there written on the bottom of the fiche de visite site caméra. That's kind of an official document accompanying the CCTV camera in question. So if that's not stigmatization, I don't know what is. And indeed, one of the I can't remember the name of the exact administrative body, but it's a central state, French state body, called it exactly that, a stigmatizing move.
All right, James Creedon, I want to thank you. And it shows just how tricky it all is between amalgamation and stigmatization that we have seen on this issue. We were talking just a moment ago about the fact that the Romanians themselves want to take integration a step further. Their president said as much when he welcomed a few hours ago the French Prime Minister to Bucharest.
The first problem Romania is facing is Romania's integration process within the structures of the European Union. What I'm highlighting here is our entry to both Schengen and the Eurozone.
Now, the French Prime Minister setting no timetable for the time being. Entry into Schengen and the Eurozone. Good idea or not?
Well, first of all, the Schengen Treaty is absolutely obsolete. And it has to be revisited because it doesn't work. It's not only a question of Romania or Bulgaria, but it's a question of Greece, where you have no control. And, never forget that we are at the beginning of those migration flux and or trends, And this will be very, very difficult in the coming years, and we have to be very careful. It doesn't mean that nobody will enter, but we have to really check and check again. And I think this Schengen Treaty will be revisited very soon by the states themselves, all states. And let me put one thing on the table, because I've heard something which are confusing things. In fact, legally speaking, I don't know who are the Roms. I don't know. I'm sorry. They are Romanian, Bulgarian, Macedonian, Hungarians. That's all. Or French inside. So I refuse to speak like that. The treaty are very clear, as I said. If, Danes come for more than 3 months having a camp in
France... So the police, when they set up those surveillance cameras in Marseille, should not be spelling out
that's absolutely
that they're looking
historic. And the question also, what the cartoon we saw when a Rom bites you, I cannot accept that. This is pure idiocy. Racism. This is pure nonsense. This is more racism. Than, I would say, racism. This is pure nonsense, and I cannot accept it. But we have to find the new law so that we prevent this kind of thing. Let me put one thing. The one who said that we should revisit the free movement in Europe, is he an MP, a French MP? No, it was Mr. Prodi. In 27, he said very clearly, because of this
former Italian Prime Minister.
Italian Prime Minister, former President of the Commission, of the European Commission. He said we will have to revisit this freedom principle of liberty going throughout Europe. So I think we are facing this problem. And this is not the first time. There was, in the 19th century, a Chancellor of Austria who said very bluntly, I'm sorry, keep your tribes, we'll keep ours. You see, to prevent, which is certainly not acceptable in the Europe of today. But you have to face reality. This is a culture shock more than anything else.
So about reality,
a cultural shock.
Culture shock.
This is a cultural shock.
Yes. You agree or not? This is a culture shock.
Sir,
so if you're talking about reality, please tell the truth to people and don't tell the people this is the beginning of the massive flows
this is the
arriving
beginning.
in Europe.
Look what is going to happen in Egypt. Look what's happening in the south.
Yes,
Open your eyes, young man. Open your eyes.
And are people
the migration trend is going to start very bluntly, and we will face this, and you will face it.
You're trying to scare people.
No, I'm not scaring people. I'm just looking around. That's
exactly not true.
If you allow me to say just a few words.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, sir, I ask you to open also your eyes, because you are speaking of a challenge, of a horrible challenge, while France is the 5th economic power in the world, and for you consider that for France, 5th economic power in the world, cannot cope with 20,000 people,
I'm
Romanians,
not speaking of 20,000. I'm speaking of the new trends, which is, look, even the UN said it.
Now,
the
please,
OECD said it. We are at the very beginning
Jacques,
of migration flux.
Of course. Then, please, you spoke also about the crisis. Let me just give a few figures. In France, there are every year places for 100,000 agriculture workers which are not taken. 100,000 of them. This population from Romania is especially from a rural population. Now, when you are speaking about the crisis, I can remind you that in the 30s, in the 20s, and in the 30s, there was also a crisis, and there were people like you who were speaking then about invasion.
No,
Do you think that France with 65...
I'm facing reality. You don't want to face reality. This is your problem.
It's not the reality.
This is the reality.
That's not true.
And you should reverse and revisit your philosophy.
20,000 people are a problem that France cannot cope with.
This is not a question of Roma themselves. It's a question of the rupture in demography in this globe.
Hold on, let me just bring in, please.
Excuse me, sir. Romanians and Bulgarians can come freely in France since 2002, more than 10 years ago.
Yes.
And in these 10 years, there have not been an enormous flux of people coming in France. There are just 20,000 of them who live in particularly precarious conditions which are created by the French law, and who can seriously think that the relations between France and Romania are only on this topic, on 20,000 people.
That brings us...
Others, now, if the mayors are, say, enough, don't forget that actually this is just the campaign for the municipal elections. UMP and PS, socialists and right-wing, are running after the National Front, after the Marine Le Pen.
Rubbish.
But listen to Jean-Marie Le Pen, who says very rightly that the French will always prefer the original to the Xerox, to the photocopy. You are a photocopy of the Front National, and I don't speak about...
I think you are the photocopy of idiocy, of something which is idiotic.
Right, gentlemen, let's keep it civil. I want to bring in Christophe ROBEET on this. Christophe, you mentioned in part one... Just please, 1 second, Saimir. In part one of our discussion, you mentioned how the British are also very wary of all of this. The British who were wary when the Poles entered the European Union, and the Polish economy has since taken off. A lot of the Poles who came to Britain have since returned home and are helping in that success story. Romania, though, different case. Latest census figures out this year show a 7% drop in the population of Romania, people going west. You may not get the same result as in Poland.
Well, and that's the other side of the coin. I'd like to tell you a story. I was recently not in Romania, but in Bulgaria, in Sofia, and we met a cardiologist in one of the main hospitals there. She was crying. She was telling me, look, we are losing our best doctors. They're all flocking to France. But I think it's important to say this. Yes. It's the other side. France is also benefiting greatly from this free circulation. Half of this newsroom, by the way, is made up of EU citizens who are allowed to work thanks to this system. So I think we should be very careful.
Disclaimer: Christophe sitting next to you here is Belgium.
No, I'm sorry. Don't confuse the debate. When you welcome, engineers, of course, wherever they come from, of course, this is a benefit. But when you have, as you said, very poor people who don't have any education, not because they are not educated as well, no, but they have no diplomas.
But so what's the solution? You can't have like second-class citizens. It wouldn't be.
We have. I'm sorry. We have in Europe today second-class citizens. This is true, and this is a genuine challenge. And this is a challenge that we have been trying to solve for years and years. And I would like to say some things that I just picked up today. That in May 2011. The French government set up a strategy to integrate Roms. And when you look at this portfolio, you will see that we try to solve every problem. The question of schooling, the question of lodging, the question of, as well as school, many use jobs,
but you said it yourself in part one of our discussion that there's a bit of a vicious circle because with the pilot projects that you mentioned, there oftentimes is not the right to work.
What do you mean not the right to work? The point is that it's very clear you can come to France. Those people can come to France within 3 months period, and if they have no job afterwards, they have no work, they have to go back. That's applied to them as well to German, Danes or Britons.
Paul Morin.
Yeah, no, it's not true because
it is true.
No, it's not true because they don't have access to the world job markets, only a limited amount. And then again, you have to stop linking these people from the country where they come from. These are only economical migrants, like the Spanish came before in France, like the Italians came as well, like many other migrants came. They're coming here to find work and to start a new life, a life that they don't want in their own country. So they're coming here for that. So there is a duty for France to integrate these people.
There is a duty for the European to integrate in their own countries.
And they are benefit for the French economy. They are benefit for the French economy because they're going to participate in a labor market and they're going to pay taxes and they're going to pay your retirement that I hope you will take soon. I'm glad to hear that
from you. You speak like the patronat, the entrepreneurs who wants to have slaves to come over. This is what you say.
What is true is that given the current restrictions, it's very hard for these children to go to schools because most of them, the problem also that the UN report, by the way, points out is that a lot of schools cannot technically take in these children because they're not registered in their municipalities. So there is a big problem there.
No. You confuse things again. I'm sorry.
Well, it's
any
black and white in the
European,
report.
any European can come to France and go to French schools, even when they have a work, when they have a job. And the question, it applies to all Europeans, whatever you are, Romanian, Bulgarian.
All right, Saimir Millet, what are the particular pitfalls of a Roma coming from Bulgaria or Romania to getting a job when he or she comes to France?
Well, a Romanian or Bulgarian citizen, before working in France, should first of all get a legal status that allows him to do so. And this is a procedure that lasts for months and months in the prefectures. That's the main problem. And the socialist government didn't change this rule. It is the transitory measures that Mr. MORIN was mentioning before. That's the problem. Now, when I often listen the word integration of Roma. These people are just pretending to integrate Roma while they are doing everything to disintegrate the whole society. This is the real problem.
So hang on, Saimir. When they instill those pilot projects like they've tried to do in France with these what they call villages d'intégration, these integrated neighborhoods, that for you is just a front?
This is just social control on particular and limited groups. No one is there for actually integrating or helping these people to live better in France. Actually, 70% of the budget of this project is given to the security and to surveillance, while in the prisons in France, only 36% is for the surveillance and the rest is for other things. In the village d'insertion, integration villages, more than the double of the budget is there to control these people. You know, the cameras that we were speaking, this is the current
surveillance cameras.
It is this kind of structure.
All right, we have a comment on Twitter from Anne saying the EU needs multiculturalism policies and programs to integrate all minorities, but Roma issue is a great tragedy. Now, the French Prime Minister, he's been speaking too on his visit to Bucharest this Thursday. That request you heard from the Romanian president to integrate that Schengen immigration zone, saying fine. Jean-Marc Ayrault, though, didn't really sketch out a particular timetable for that. What he did spell out, though, was what sounded like a heavy disclaimer to Bucharest's request.
It is also not acceptable.
Reinforcing all the security measures, the protection of the borders, because this is a common fight against corruption and criminality in all its forms. If all this is done, it will be a considerable help for a more complete integration.
He's giving himself a lot of wiggle room there, Christophe. ROBEET.
It's been a hot potato for years. You know, I've been attending a lot of EU summits. It's always on the table. There's a lot of anger on the Romanian and Bulgarian side because they feel that they're treated like second-class citizens within the Union, and they wonder why they can't be in Schengen if their Polish or Czech neighbours are. I think it's not only France, by the way. There's a lot of pressure coming from Germany as well, and from the Netherlands, particularly from the Netherlands. I don't think Bulgaria and Romania are likely to enter Schengen zone in the coming month because this issue is not solved. And I'm afraid that the current economic crisis has only added problems to the issue.
In Romania, more than 600,000 Romas, according to the official census, making them the second largest minority after the Hungarians, one that is chastised. Their plight highlighted in this recent video posted by Amnesty International. In part one of our discussion, Jacques was saying how the Romanians have to do more. Saimir Millet, what can the Romanians do more at this point?
They can give a bit of expertise to the French government, and I hope that the French Prime Minister will benefit from his visit now in Bucharest. Because indeed, Romania has made a lot of effort. I'm not saying that everything is nice there, but there are things that are put in place for this. While in France, everyone says, oh, we don't know, we don't recognize any minority, but when it comes to stigmatize in campaigns, in electoral campaigns, or when it comes to repress people, then they know very well where to hit.
All right, so the feeling that in Romania things are more on the table. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to hear the response to that. Saimir Millet, I want to thank you for joining us from the French city of Lyon. I want to thank our guests in the studio, Paul Morin, Jacques MYARD, Christophe ROBEET. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.
Thank you. Thank you.